Well, more voices are being added to the chorus in Hollywood and beyond about the 2016 Academy Awards. Now, it's all because of a lack of racial diversity among nominees. In fact, Oscar-winning actor George Clooney said the Academy is moving in the wrong direction, saying the situation was better 10 years ago. Lupita Nyong'o is currently featured in Star Wars and was an Oscar winner 2 years ago, and she said she was also disappointed by what she calls a lack of inclusion in the nominations. Now, they join a prominent director and actress who both said they won't attend the Oscars, Spike Lee, Jada Pinkett Smith, declaring their intentions when, for the second year in a row, no black or minority actors were nominated in the 4 Oscars acting categories. Well, to talk more about this, I'm joined by Sudz Sutherland. He's a writer, director, and executive producer, and Karen King-Chigbo. She's a former TV executive and a producer at the National Film Board. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, very welcome.
Now, I want to begin here with Jada Pinkett Smith, because she posted something on social media, which I have to say I found very powerful. Let's listen to what she has to say, and let's pick up the discussion after that.
Begging for acknowledgement or even asking diminishes dignity and diminishes power. And we are a dignified people.
So as she says that, she is calling for a boycott, telling people not to watch the Oscars, not to attend the ceremony if they've been invited. And I'm going to begin with you here, Karen. Is a boycott the answer here? Is that something that will inspire change in the system?
I don't think it will. I mean, I think that the system is, that the problem is systemic, but it doesn't start there. I think the problem has to be tackled from the bottom. Who's voting at the Academy are the members of the Academy, who are people who work in the film and television industry. And what the problem is that there's not enough inclusion in the film and television industry as a whole.
What do you think, Sudz? A boycott?
Well, I agree with Karen in terms of like these things, but I also agree that it's a systemic problem. What I'm saying is that it's about the executives in the executive suites, the people who greenlight these movies. If you're going to have a very small set of people greenlighting the movies, you're going to have the same things replicated again and again and again.
But do you think a boycott is something that people should be pursuing here to send a message?
I think what it does is engender a conversation. And the fact that we're actually having a conversation about notions of white privilege, notions of inclusion, notions of diversity, I think that's great. I really think that's great. And the conversation is great.
And we're looking at one of the films that people say was ignored by the Academy.
Tragedy. This was one of the best films. The performance by the young boy was the most outstanding lead male performance I've seen all year long, and for them not to be there. Now, I heard...
And Idris. Don't forget Idris.
And Idris was amazing.
He was incredible.
He was incredible in that movie. But the thing that I heard was that actually it was some politics that didn't allow the film to be, because the film was distributed both theatrically and on other platforms at the same time, and so there was some technicality that didn't allow it to be entered.
Well, the fact remains.
Yeah, I think I love the look on your face as Karen is telling that to you. I don't think
those things happen all the time. So
I think that the fact is that these awards, the nominations, again, Lily White for the second straight year. Yeah. But look, this has been going on since we were kids, before we were born. So this is nothing new.
Yeah, I think there are more. We could actually count the years where there was inclusion more easily than we could count the years where there weren't.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I stopped watching the Oscars. I've been boycotting the Oscars myself since like Marissa Tomei, like when she won against Jay Davidson and Miranda Richardson, the year of the crying game. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is like the Grammys. I mean, to look for validation in these awards, again, is you're looking for something that we're not going to find, because again, the playing field is not level.
Well, I want to talk about that because you guys work in the industry. You in particular are a director, a writer, executive producer. You're one of those people who are asking for a green light, trying to break into the industry. What's it been like for you? What have you encountered, having worked not only in Canada but also in the United States?
I've encountered failure, I've encountered success. I mean, like on the basic level, on the most basic level, I've been told when I was trying to get assistant jobs, when I was trying to get my first break in the industry, well, you're not going to fit in here. You know, my boss doesn't feel right about having you as a 6-foot-tall black man as her assistant, and just being told that straight and plain. But I've also had success because I've been persistent. I work with a partner, Jennifer Holness, as a producer, and we've been persistent in trying to get opportunities after opportunities, and we don't give up. And so we're now lucky to say that we've got a CBC series called Shoot the Messenger that's going to premiere after the Stanley Cup playoffs this year.
That's nice. Nice
and that's a good plug. Yeah, so, but the thing is that, but like the fact is that it's not easy. Mm-hmm. It's not easy for anyone to get a green light. But the fact is that the executives on the other side of the table will have to take that chance.
Well, you've sat beside the executives at the other
I've
side of
been
the table.
one of the executives
yeah,
on the
exactly.
other side of the
in
table.
television in particular. And you know, and I've heard the comment before. Why does the neighbor always have to be white? Why can't the neighbor be a person of color? Why does the best friend? And you hear this time again. How difficult is it to actually get inclusion, diversity a part of the subject matter, and not just lip service, but actually part of the decisions that are delivered?
I think that the quality of the diversity is the conversation, because it's easy to do casting. It's kind of the last minute, oh my goodness, we got to do what the network needs, and they want, let's get some people in front of the camera. Where the actual diversity makes a difference is when you actually have portrayals that represent something that people can actually identify with. Where we as an industry generally fall down is we don't have anybody in the writing rooms that understands the characters who are in front of the camera. We don't have anybody behind the camera shooting the people. So you look at the entire crew, they are representing the storytelling. There's a story in the wardrobe, in the hair, and the lighting, and the camera movement everywhere. And if there isn't an appreciation of the marketplace and recognizing that we are serving a new marketplace and we better get better at doing it, we're going to continue to have this.
Well, Deb Smith is the producer who helped put together this panel, and I found it interesting because she was telling me a story where, and I raised this because we're talking about a situation in the United States, the Academy being based in Hollywood, but it's just not a Canadian story, because you've worked on a production where the Americans came up and they were shocked by the lack of diversity that was here in Canada.
Exactly, and I think it's one of the things that really propelled me into the work that I do in diversity around film and television, which is I had 2 programs that I worked with, well 3 actually, where Columbia Pictures came up, the Family Channel came up, it was WKRP from Cincinnati, that guy. He came up and he said, where are the people of color? So we had to scramble and find people to get them hired onto the crews. We had to get them, permitted into the unions. We had to get them off the waiting lists and into the unions so we could have them on the set. Same when the Van Peebles came up. He said, where are the people of color? He said, I don't want you to find the people who are already in the unions. I want you to bring new people in. So what has to happen is each one of the unions and the guilds needs to take on a 100-member challenge. Let's add 100 members of people from diverse backgrounds, because it's going to make us a more valuable asset to our producers. Because if you could have said, I want as many black people on my crew as possible, your storytelling would have been completely different. Because I haven't heard any of the stories yet, but I know you have stories to tell.
And excuse me, because we're running out of time, but I do want to touch upon the Canadian Screen Award nominations. They came out yesterday. Lyric Bent nominated for Book of Negroes. Congratulations on that. But does that mean to say Canadian film is becoming more diverse, or is the challenge still here? I think I know the answer.
Well, the challenge is still here. Like, this was an unusual year because of Book of Negroes, so there's a whole slew of nominations. But if you take Book of Negroes out of the equation, what do you have? So year to year, it's high or low, and it can change from year to year. But if we're looking for systemic change, we have to change the boardrooms. We have to change, in terms of hiring practices, et cetera, et cetera. We have 3 daughters, my wife and I, and so when they watch films, a lot of times they see like a central white protagonist. And so that message that gets reinforced is that you are not the center of this. The story's not about you. You could be the best friend or the second best friend or the third best friend, but really it's not about you. That subliminal message gets taught not just to black kids or other kids of color, that gets taught to white kids too. And so that message that these people are not important gets reinforced daily. And if you look at that over the course of a lifetime, that's the overall message. And that's what we have to change. And this is part of this whole thing, this great conversation to have, because we need to have more conversations.
And we know that, the producers and the network executives don't mean to be doing that. They don't mean to be enhancing and exacerbating the issues around racism, poverty, and all the issues that are our societal ills. And they don't recognize that what they are doing is doing exactly that. But they can be conscious, and they can specifically look at, let's make sure we're not reinforcing those stereotypes and sending those messages to our audiences, because the audience is disengaged. We won't watch it anymore. We don't have to. We've got other options. So when you want to look at why your market share is shrinking and recognize that, market share is down 30%, people of color are up 30%, maybe there's a correlation to be made, and maybe there's a market that's waiting to be served.
I want to thank you very much, but to close out the circle very quickly, will you be watching the Academy Awards this year?
No.
Will you be watching the Academy Awards this year?
Hell no.
Thank you very much for joining me, Sudz Sutherland, Karen King-Chigbo. Thank you for your thoughts and your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.